the farmers, vendors themselves, in addition to that sales, which really kind of goes back to the market, because it doesn't really matter how much an individual vendor makes as much as how much does that go towards the profitability, the productivity of the market. But for the vendors themselves, a couple of pieces of important information to collect are how many acres they have in cultivation. So if you have several farmers that are on 2 or 3 acres, that really helps you craft a different feel than farmers that are maybe on 20 acres. You're thinking about different economies of scale, and maybe that's a number you hadn't thought about, but I'm going to encourage you to think about collecting how many acres in production over, and it kind of comes and goes, but over the whole year, how much area did they have in production? The product line, somebody mentioned, whether it's fresh product, processed or prepared, or if it goes beyond that into value added. And you're going to have to think about how, when you set up the market, this might help you think about categories for vendors. How do you want to define or delineate the types of vendors that you have? But that 3-tiered classification might be one to start with. Another thing is food miles. Food miles are becoming increasingly important and not something that you should discount. So think about how far is the food traveling to get to your market. Most often you're going to want to record what is the furthest from the market that the food is traveling, but you might also want to keep a couple of points, maybe on a map or some sort. But keeping in mind how far away is that furthest piece of food coming to your market. In terms of the percentage that they grow, if you have vendors, farmer vendors, who are marketing products that they themselves did not physically produce, you need to know what percentage of that stuff they're buying in or selling, sharing, selling, because that's going to add another little dimension to your market. So the assumption is you're growing 100% of what you sell, but that might not always be the case. So if you are marketing or selling for somebody else, what percentage of your total weekly sales could you estimate is somebody else's? Because that reflects another farmer being represented at your market that's really not being counted. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. And then we talked about gross sales. The last piece that I'm going to encourage you to collect from farmer vendors is their websites. Why is it important that you collect their website if they have one? Why is that important?
You can link to it.
You can link to it. So there is a way that you can help drive business for them, generate interest in their farm and the food that they're growing. If they have a website, collect that particular type of information. Christine?
The other thing is through Facebook. I have many vendors who have their own farm as their Facebook page, and they've linked to the farmers market page. And then when I put something out for the farmers market, they promote it through their own farm, so it goes to their customers, and it just keeps trickling.
Yeah, Monday I was over in Grand Rapids speaking to the nursery growers about social media marketing, and a lot of people are kind of sitting on the fence about that, but to me, this is really a way that we can capitalize, particularly with the younger demographic, is to be able to, and I'm becoming a bigger advocate of tweeting, because Facebook, tell me if I'm going over somebody's head, Facebook is very passive. I have to get on to look at stuff. Tweeting sends that message out. The market's now open, 4 vendors have strawberries. Tweeting becomes very active to their device.
Actually, that depends on how your Facebook account's set up.
It does.
Your Facebook account sends you the stuff. A lot of people turn that off because they don't want to hear every time their friend's kid takes a step.
Exactly. That's why.
A long list.
That's why I think tweeting might be a little bit better. But I'll let you handle that, Julia.
We've treated our Facebook like a Twitter at some extent, and we have an update every week, and it educates customers as to what's fresh now, and helps people understand the seasonality of food. People were really anxious about when strawberries or raspberries or Honey Crisps were going to be in, and this is a good way for people it's a good way to educate customers, but also always include that, here's a great way for you to get what's freshest right now.
Let's go to consumers, the people who are coming to buy the products that the vendors market for sale. This is kind of where I get really excited. My eyes get big and I get a little more. Amanda has had my class. Amanda, what's the most important single piece of marketing information that any business can collect? Woohoo! Can I have 3 cheers for zip codes? Hip hip hooray! Okay, why do I get so excited about zip codes? It tells you exactly where they're coming from. There is a plethora, big word, of information available free online for you to understand demographically what that person, that kind of neighborhood or area that they're coming from. If you get absolutely nothing else from your consumers, some point get zip codes. I'm a big fan of the rapid assessments. I don't know if anybody's going to talk about that because is anybody going to talk about that?
But we'll make sure we bring it up and use it as a resource.
Yeah, because well, I'll talk about the bubble, the sticker surveys. But anyway, zip code, zip code, zip code. Absolutely, positively collect zip codes when you can. When can you do that? You can do it during a sale. You can do this Wednesday morning. You should do this Saturday afternoon. You should do this different times of the day to kind of plot out where you're pulling people in from different times that the market is open, different hours that the market is open. You might be pulling in different geographies. Zip code tells you where you can put flyers. Zip code tells you where flyers are being effective. Zip code tells you an awful lot of things because it's an impersonal piece of information that most everybody has. It's pretty easy and we don't feel, how many of you have been asked for a zip code lately? Yeah, everybody's collecting it. The rapid market assessment summaries, you can get online and some of those summaries are available. I'm not going to spend, because if I had an hour I would talk about rapid market assessments, but I think they're wonderful surveys. Customer counts. Let's talk about customer counts. Physically, number of bodies. There are a couple of ways that you can get this. You could collect this from vendors, but that puts another piece of information on. Yeah, they don't have time for that. You'd love to have that, but you don't. How do you creatively collect customer count?
We have a volunteer or several volunteers that have like little counter shifts, and they will just look and, you know, try as best they can to see who the new unique people are that are coming in.
Absolutely.
Also, what I did, I got the little thing, the clicker thing too. So, so when the people were counted, you can just click. But I had to have someone that was actually watching for when somebody new came into the market.
Yeah. Yes?
I have volunteers, usually the kids that come in there. I have a click. I have 2 gates, 2 clickers. We do it by the hour, by the hour. Every hour, by the gate, by the hour, whichever the ones they are. For the
Gold
last 6
star
years.
for him, because that really is some good information, because then as you look at adapting hours, that really helps you understand kind of traffic flow.
When we wanted to go back in to get our special events permit, we could pull that information right up there for the whole city council to do it. And they said, well, how many people's coming? And we could look back over the last 6 years and tell them exactly. And I'll just add this other tidbit that we did have Drew come down and did a rapid market assessment down there, and they clicked 10 minutes every hour, right, Drew? Is that right? And our numbers was really, I mean, they was within.
That's a good validation.
Very close. I mean, I didn't believe that, but they was close.
I just wanted to add, in rapid market assessments, we do customer counts 10 minutes from 25 after the hour to 25 to the hour, and then at each location, and then we multiply by 6 to get an average. And at the Bath Farmers Market, we just did the same thing. We do those counts, and then we did a month of actual counts, counting every person, and we were within 20.
Yeah.
And so I think that what I've been trying to tell markets, if you want to just do it 10 minutes, you know, do that, and then for a specific amount of time, get some volunteers, count every person coming into your market, make sure they're close, and if that works for you, then go back to just estimating. Because as long as the numbers are close, then you have numbers, you know, that make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Customer count, critical. How would you measure how much fun they had? If they're staying, if they're coming back, how much they're buying. Yeah, and how many, you know, maybe go back to the sticker thing, which they use often in the rapid market assessment. How many happy faces do you put on there? So don't forget some of those other things that we need to be measuring is how much fun folks are having. I'm going to show you a little bit on Google Analytics. Are you going to talk about Google Analytics at all? Okay. How many, your market should have a website. That should go without saying. One of the things that I want you to to draw your attention to in terms of metrics is a free program. It's actually just a little string of code that you can put on to monitor how effective, how many visits, and some other cool things are coming to your site. How many of you currently use Google Analytics on your farmers market website? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Have you found it valuable? Helpful? Yeah? Okay. This is Gardening in Michigan, a website that I work with a colleague in the consumer horticulture program, Mary Wilson, and I put this up here, and we just started it. I think it'll be, gosh, it will be 2 years old in May. That's hard to believe. We put Google Analytics on there. This was my first experience with it. And this is what I want to show you, is the report that you get. You go to Google Analytics and you say, I want to add Google Analytics to my website. And they send you this little string of code. They tell you how to put it into your website. It is pretty easy. You don't have to be a computer geek or a 16-year-old kid to do it. Or you can get a 16-year-old kid to help you. It is pretty easy. Here's what you get. This is one of the first pieces of information that come up. So we have literally the days, the traffic that we get per day. It tells me how many people visited my site during, and we can set the period of time. We might want to look at this monthly. If you're really into the numbers like me, look at it weekly. But this is from the 1st of August to the 30th of August last year. We had 1,540 people visit our site. 66% of those people were new visitors. Free information. Wouldn't you like to have this? How many pages did they see? On average, they saw almost 3.7 pages per visit. Is that important? Maybe how many vendors they took a look at? It tells us how long they stayed on the website. An average of 3 minutes and 39 seconds. Now, too long might tell you they couldn't find it, and too short might tell you they couldn't find it. So we're talking about a couple of minutes as being relatively good. I didn't get in, and you see the little map overlay there? You can zoom into this map overlay and literally see from where, what counties the people who are looking at your website are getting onto it from. This is where the computer lives, all right? The computer that visited your website, where does it live geographically? And then another good piece of information that they give you is how did they find you? About half of the folks found our website from somebody else referring them. Is that helpful to you to know that? You bet it is. About a third of them from a search engine and 29% from direct traffic. Again, total count, but this is absolutely unique visitors, so we had 1,181 people in that month. Whoops. What browser did they use to find me? Most of them, 57%, used Internet Explorer. Why is that important to know?
Because your web page looks different in each browser.
Compatibility with those browsers, you bet. And then what did they connect with? We only had 2.79% of the folks use dial-up to get us. What does that tell me? I can use, maybe not a lot of fancy fun bells and whistles, but I could use some. And 41% found me with cable. Really cool stuff, particularly if you're a number geek. The referring sites, I want to show you a little bit more detail on how they found you. 37% found us from the Michigan State University Extension website, referring them. That is helpful to know how they got there. A Google Organic search, so they literally typed some keywords in to find me. And I'll show you that in just a second. And then Yahoo Organic, that's what the referring, the organic means. And how do you do an organic search? This is literally the keywords that you type in. And Google Analytics gives me the information. Here are the keywords that people use to find me. So this is what they typed into Google or Yahoo to be able to get onto my site. How does that help you? Oops, how does that help you?
Keywords you should include.
Yeah, you got to have 2 or 3 keywords. You got to know how people are finding you. So if it's farmers market, East Lansing, farmers market, Okemos, see kind of what those keywords are. And if you want a little instructional information, How many of you are YouTube users? I'm sold. I want to know how to do something. I just get on YouTube. There's a video for that. Survey information particularly from the vendors. These are some of the questions that I think you need to do as a debriefing at the end of the season. I'm going to encourage you to, at least once a year, get together with a group of, maybe not all, but with a group of your market farmers or vendors to find out some critical information. What went well for you this season? Here, we all like to have a pat on the back, and it's nice to hear the really nice things. But what I want you to dig for are the warts, the problems, the big and the small snafus. What didn't go well for you? Because here's a place where you can really think about, is this something I can fix? Is parking an issue? Is access to the booth an issue? Is access to washing dishes an issue? If I can understand what the big problems are for my farmer vendors, I can then think about if that's an area that I choose to improve in and how much is that going to cost me in terms of time and resources. I'd love to get the attaboys, that's nice, but really when you get these folks together, you want them to be brutally honest. What really did not go well for you? What are the strengths of the market? This can help you with marketing. Again, really nice to have, but as a good advocate for your farmer vendors, find out what went wrong. What were the areas that could be improved? Maybe even go a step further and not just ask them for what areas could be improved, but if you could suggest a way that we could fix this problem, that's going to help me take a step in the right direction. So point out some of the things that didn't go well, maybe make a suggestion for 3 of those on how to improve that. And then maybe ask them about ways that you can improve the customer shopping experience, the number of people coming, maybe that's a suggestion box. But getting these folks together for an hour or 2 when they are down, when their farm is inactive, feeding them a little bit and getting, yeah, because food makes people talk. People don't talk a lot when they're hungry. So give them a little bit of food and, you know, let's have a brainstorming session. The good things, yes, but really let's see how pervasive some of these bad things were, how serious they were, and maybe what are some suggestions we can do to improve that.